All right, guys, we are back again for another episode of the Coach's Compass. We don't know what episode it is because we've just been rolling and having a lot of fun with all these guests that we have on each and every time. Now, remember, hit that like, comment, subscribe button down below so we continue to grow this thing and go in the right direction and help coaches and athletes across the world continue to get their stories out there and continue to learn from some of the top coaches. But today, we've got another special guest with us today. We've got Malorie Henderlong out of Baylor University. So Malorie's background, she has a Baylor athletics performance coach, currently also doing an internship with Austin FC, worked at TCU for an internship and a GA with the women's soccer team and American football. So had her first start in American football. Then from there went 6 months at UNC with working with all sports. Then from there, she also played soccer at Eastern Illinois University before she transferred over to Spring Arbor University. She is originally from Crown Point, Indiana, but now living in Waco, Texas. So,
yay, Waco.
Welcome, Malorie. Yeah, Waco.
Thanks
good
for
old
having
Waco.
me. I'm excited for me. You know, some of us call it wacko, but
Yeah, it is. So I drove through Waco one time and stopped at what is those silos or whatever the thing is.
Magnolia. Yeah, that's really the only thing we're known for here.
Yeah, I stopped there. I ain't seen no people like me, so I had to get up out of there quick.
Yeah, Waco was a culture shock for me growing up right outside Chicago and then being in a metroplex of Dallas-Fort Worth area, and then UNC, like, you know, you kind of have the triangle, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, and I came here and there was just cows and I was like, what's going on?
So you're loving Waco so far.
It's a good distance between Austin and Dallas, so I take it. And I have good people here, so anywhere's what you make of it, right?
Yeah, that is true. So what was the transition like for you from going from playing to now on the other side of just like coaching and being around athletes all the time?
Yeah, so I guess kind of like the background of like my journey through like sport and then into performance training. I played soccer basically from the time I could walk. My grandfather actually started my high school soccer program, and then my mom's siblings, my two aunts, or my aunt, and then my two uncles went on to play in college. So I was the first grandchild. Like, there was no option and question what sport I was going to play. Like, my family literally has this book called Soccer for Dummies. So when you marry into our family and you don't understand the sport of soccer, like, you get handed this book and you're going to figure it out real quick because it's just like ingrained in us. And I was like a pretty like average soccer player, kind of like as you mentioned. I went on to play in my college years, but never had a dream or a vision to like play after that. You know, I did it because it's fun and something I enjoyed. And towards the end of my like college career, I found myself like in the weight room way more than I was on the field, like trying to perfect my craft. And I went to a small NAI school, didn't have a strength coach, but I grew up in a performance training facility, like a private sector. And I started going there when I was, I think, like 10 or 12 years old. And my performance coach at that time still works there, now he's my high school brother's performance coach. And when I go home, like, that's who I train with. So we have this I'm 26 now. So 16-year long relationship, and this person who played a pivotal role in my life, like not only from a athletics performance standpoint, but just from my growth from a little girl to a young adult. And I just remember one day I was like sitting in my dorm room, not sure what I was going to do with my life. And my parents had always been telling me like, you should be a strength coach. And I'm like, no. And I just looked back on my experiences with him and how I felt like God was calling me to serve and mentor young people. And strength conditioning just so happens to be the platform that I get to use to do that right now. So I guess that kind of like speaks into like how I got in this field and my like passion for the career. But it's definitely kind of a transition going from like playing sport all the time to now I'm just like coaching this one aspect of performance and helping athletes in the weight room or on the field. And I think there's a part of me that still like yearns to be an athlete. And I find that like in my own training, I can still train in that manner. But also there's just like this competitive edge and this like dog mentality that I have inside of me that comes out, and like I'm seeking excellence in all that I do. And I think I try to encourage my athletes to do the same.
That's awesome to have a coach like that still has a dog mentality. Yeah. You think you can go out there and still beat some of your athletes?
For sure. There's like some days where, you know, I'm out there and they know that. And I think that's something that as a young coach, I still have the opportunity to train at a level that these athletes are training. And I don't take that for granted. And I've had really, really great mentors, and my current director here at Baylor, like, always instills that in us. Like, do your field work, get on the field, do your dynamic warm up, do your speed work, do your acceleration work, like, train like you're an athlete, because one day we're going to be older and have kids and we'll be grandparents. And I still want to be able to do all those things and get down and up off the floor. So yeah, there's definitely days where I'm like, give the girls a hard time, and I get out there and like run right alongside of them or get the soccer ball out and like show them what's up.
What was it like for you, stepping back? I mean, you get into the world of strength and conditioning, and you going as an intern and as a GA. And for a lot of people over here in Europe, they don't essentially know what that's like, to take like a very, very to minimal, no paying job and having crazy hours. What are your hours like, and what was it like to go into that position?
Are you asking about my internship, like my first internship, or the one I'm doing right now?
The first one. I know that right now is a little hectic
one.
too. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. My first internship, I didn't know any different, I remember to this day, and I'm all about like stories. I walk in the weight room at TCU. My mentor is Coach Zach Dakin there, then also Don Summer, who oversaw football. But I had no idea who Coach Dakin was at the time. And I mean, he had just written this book. Like, everyone knew who he was. I was like, yeah, I don't know who he is, but like, I'm doing this internship there. I remember I walked in the weight room. Coach Summer's office is like the only office downstairs. And I just walk in, and like my bubbly personality, I'm like, hey coach, I'm Mallory. Like, I'm a summer intern. He looked at me like I was crazy. And then his son came in the room and was like, yeah, I'll show you where you're supposed to go, because it's like not in this office. And I learned really quickly that, like, coming up in like the football space, it's like this hard-nosed, blue collar, like mentality where either like you level up or like get out. And it was pretty like old school and like tell it how it is. And my skin was thickened really quick, and I still carry that a lot with me. So yeah, the environment was super overwhelming at first. I was working like 13 hours a day. My feet were like swollen. I'd go home and like put my feet up on the wall, and on top of it, you're not getting paid. But at that point, I was still in college. I was about to enter my senior year of college. I just fell completely in love with the process of college athletics. I didn't grow up with that in my college space. I didn't have a performance coach. I only knew the private sector. So that's what I thought I wanted to do. And then I went into the college space, and the opportunity to watch people come in as freshmen, and then watch them grow over a 4-year span or 5 years or 6 years these days into young adults, and the pivotal like influence that we can have not only on their athletic career, but the trajectory of their life as young people. I mean, that's what gets me excited to show up at work every day, and got me excited to work these long days as an intern, knowing that if I did the work, I'd land in the role I'm in right now.
So, like, with that, going into that space, what was it like, working with football athletes? Because, being a female coach, it's a little bit different. You know what I mean? Like, did you gain the respect right away, or how did you earn, like, these guys' trust to, like, know that, like, you know what you're talking about, and actually to give you that opportunity to coach them?
Yeah, I think it just goes back to, like, I'm super thankful for Coach Don Summer, and then also Coach Gary Patterson, the head coach at the time. Like, they welcomed me with open arms, and there was never like, oh, you're a female. It was just like, I'm a coach. And then I think they did a really good job of making that clear for the guys. I mean, there comes the hiccups, but there's hiccups with any athlete you coach, male or female, and I always try to remember the way that my athletes react or handle situations are like not dependent on their sex, but it's more a reflection of like their upbringing and their life experiences and how they've learned to handle situations and interact with people around them in environments they've been in. So there was definitely hard moments, but I had a great support system and people that welcomed me into the environment with open arms and uplifted and supported me.
So you go from TCU all the way to North Carolina, now back to Baylor. What is that move around like, and how tough is that on you? I mean, you're a former athlete, right? So you're used to, picking up and going, playing games, different places and all that stuff. But like, that's a big move, because a lot of like you're going from internship to now a 6-month like at UNC, and then like from there you get to Baylor. How did that work?
It just comes to the territory, and I think that I had it goes back to my mentors. Like, they did a really good job of laying out the reality of this career, and that it's going to take some jumping around. It's going to take some really hard, like gritty years of just doing the work and building a really strong foundation. So I was super excited to embark on searching for jobs when I was a GA at TCU. Like, that was super exciting. Finally, like, I'm interviewing, like, you know, my dreams are coming true. I'm going to be a strength coach. And I had the door slammed in my face so many times. And now, to kind of get off topic, but a piece of advice I always tell our interns is, like, take every job interview and take it as a learning experience and a networking experience. So there's people that told me no when I was a GA that now I have a relationship with because I sat on that Zoom call with them all those years ago. And now they're recommending me for other jobs, or they've reached out to me for a job at their institution that they have open more recently. But yeah, and then the position at UNC I interviewed for, they called me and they're like, yeah. And I remember my mom just so happened to be in town visiting me that week, and she was leaving 2 days later, and I got this job. And then you know how it goes, like, you need to be there in 2 weeks. And I just remember laying on my couch sobbing because, like, TCU is where it all started for me. Like, that place, like, holds such a special place in my heart, and those athletes hold a special place in my heart because they're the first people I got to coach, and they and the coaching staffs, like, trusted me to, like, lead them through this pivotal time in their lives. So I just remember sobbing, one, because I was so sad to leave, and two, because I was just so full of excitement to embark on this journey at UNC. And then being at UNC for 6 months, I knew it was going to be a short time period. I was supposed to be there for 11 months, but this opportunity at Baylor presented itself. So I always look back on that time and wish that I could have been more intentional during my time there. I kind of knew it was going to be a short-lived thing, so I feel like I didn't necessarily, like, pour into that space as much as I could have. And I think something, as I've become more tenured in the field, is, like, being where my feet are and really pouring into the space I'm at. So then, yeah, now I ended up at Baylor. When I first got here, I had intentions. I'm like, I'm going to be super intentional in this space. I want to see this freshman class through. I'm 2.5 years in now. Year one was really hard. I came into a transition period, brand new coaching staff on the soccer side. Anyone that's been in transition period with a coaching staff and then a team of athletes from the former staff knows how hard that is. But there's been a lot of fruitfulness in this journey and in this process. And I'm just kind of trusting, like, whatever door God opens next.
Now, a lot of our viewers are from Europe and have no idea, like, how that college space works. And just like you said, like, nowadays, where it's just like, so what does a day look like for you? Like from when you wake up, you're probably up in the morning early, to, like, when you're checking out.
It kind of depends on the time of year. So I'll kind of talk about through, like, when I'm in season for soccer, because I primarily work with women's soccer here at Baylor, but I also assist with softball, and in the past I've assisted with acrobatics and tumbling. Typically in the fall, softball is out of season, so we lift in the morning. So lift is at 6 a.m. Typically I'm rolling into work like 4:45, 5 o'clock to set up the weight room, to set up any conditioning we have on the field. So yeah, I'm up and primed at like 4:20 in the fall, and I'm at work all day. Finish up softball session. Usually I'm like, all right, time to eat breakfast, whatever. We have great resources on our campus, student athlete dining hall. Staff can eat there. So I try to, like, join in fellowship with our athletes and staff. And then a lot of work at my desk or my computer, like programming, answering emails. I handle our sports science or our GPS for soccer. So kind of just catching up on things around that. And then really my mind shifts to soccer, and soccer only typically, like when that midday point hits and there's meetings regarding like plans for practice, plans for athletes rehab or treatment or their return to play process. And then that 2 o'clock time hits. I'm out at soccer practice. I'm running the warm up before training begins. I'm on the field at training, either partaking in something, an athlete's return to play, assisting our managers in any way that they may need, or running like a live session in our Catapult GPS system. And then after training is usually when we lift. And so then we head into the weight room, get our lift in if we have a lift on that day, and then kind of start winding down for the day and checking through my like to-do list of any things I need to clean up before I head out for the day. But my day could also look completely different than that. So you just never know.
What time do you usually leave then?
It depends, because usually around, if we have practice at 2, I'm probably, and I have nothing else after that, I'm leaving the building around 6:30. But say we have a match and the match doesn't start till 7, like 11 p.m., midnight. By the time, like, the game's over, everyone's done seeing their families, we got the GPS data downloaded, I've got the report to coach, there's been conversations, we've had our meal, and all the athletes are out the building and taken care of.
4:45 until 12 p.m. Then you gotta wake up again. Do it again.
Okay, that doesn't happen that often, but there are days. There's been days, but honestly, and I have to kudos to my director, Chris Roof. He does a really good job of there's definitely a work-life balance to a degree. What is work-life balance working in athletics? I don't think it exists that here, or there's something in regards to work-life balance. He does a really good job of letting us get out of the office and fill our own cups. Because I always say for myself, if my cup's not filled, there's no way I'm going to be filling anyone else's cup. So
yeah, that's got to be tricky with that. I mean, there's a lot of hours spent there. Also, you're in a college space too, and right now college athletics is going wild. Obviously, we kind of only really know the football side of things. I don't know if it's the same for soccer, athletics, and all the other sports that you're working with. Is it as intense in that space with the transfer portal and NIL deals, kids coming and going all the time? Is it are you guys feeling those same repercussions that are going on right now that college football is feeling?
Yes and no. I think that I always say that my best ability is my adaptability. And so I just am continually thinking about how am I going to adapt in this space as the space continues to adapt and evolve. We definitely utilize the transfer portal, and it's definitely prominent. I think that a lot of coaches kind of have this mindset now of, okay, how can I utilize the transfer portal to get people into this space that already have college experience and have already gone through the hard first freshman year and are used to managing their workload when it comes to courses, and then also managing their friendships and relationships and the social life that comes with college. I don't think it's to the degree that is in football or the basketball. NIL is not as big. Those things are prevalent, but not to the level and the severity that you're seeing in those sports.
So then, working with your sport, how hard is it, or just we'll say women's soccer, how hard is it to program for a whole team that are playing different positions and stuff? We're talking in season, out of season, return to play. What does that go like for you?
Yeah, that's why I have a job, or else anyone would be sitting in this seat, and anyone could do it. And I think there's clearly a science and a craft to it, but there's a million ways to get to the end goal. And so the approach I have is probably completely different than other people's approach. I actually am rereading a book right now called Football Periodization. I'm talking about soccer, the real football.
Whoa.
But and a lot of that is driven by the fact that I'm doing this internship right now in the professional side of soccer, and just how do I bring ideas from that space into the college space that I naturally is completely different, and we have a different schedule. So, but this book really dives into the components of a soccer match and how there's transition, attacking, and defending. And then you look at attacking, there's building out, and there's scoring, and defending, there's disrupting build out, and there's disrupting scoring. And then you look at the actions of soccer. So there's within that, there's passing, shooting, dribbling, dueling with an opponent, heading, but within all those are your basic actions. So your horizontal acceleration, deceleration, your vertical deceleration and acceleration. The basic action, training the basic actions is my job. Okay. And then training the muscle actions that support those basic actions is my job. So I think about our muscle actions as our front squat and our RDL, and our bench press. Our muscle actions train our basic actions, and our basic actions make up our soccer actions. And that's basically what this book lays out. And it's been a great reminder of me that soccer is the start point and the end point for me. And if anything else in between overrides that, then I have the wrong mindset, that I'm just what I do is just one piece of the puzzle, and our athletes are here to play their sport. They're not here to be Olympic weightlifters or power lifters. They're here to be exceptional at soccer, and my job is to prepare them for the demands of their sport. So in that, it looks like a lot of different things. And sometimes I had to like check my ego and put my ego aside and recognize that soccer trumps all most days. And my job is to prepare them to complete soccer actions to their best of ability at a high intensity and a high frequency. Because whoever does that is likely to win a soccer game. Now, there's a lot of luck that sometimes goes into it, and unfortunate events, and you have to score goals and disrupt the ability of scoring goals. But so for me, or here at Baylor, out of season, we train 3 times a week in the weight room. That looks like a lot of different things. Then in the summer months, our athletes are gone for 10 months. They have a summer, or 10 weeks, 10 months. 10 weeks, and they have a summer packet that they follow. Yeah, that'd be wild. They have a summer packet that they follow where they lift either 3 or 4 times a week. They have their speed, acceleration, conditioning. Also, a bunch of them are off playing in like summer soccer leagues or have jobs and are being college kids. And then they arrive back. Our athletes will arrive back on July 10th, so a month from today. And we'll have a 3-week period leading up to preseason where there cannot be, it's voluntary. So all of our ladies will be back though. Voluntary training with myself. We'll do all of our speed, acceleration, conditioning, strength training, and then they'll hold captain's practices. So our sport coaches cannot coach them during that time. And then July 29th hits, preseason starts. I think we play a game on like the 8th. So it's just like hit the foot on the gas at full throttle. And we hope that we did a really good job in the spring, setting our athletes up to prepare themselves in the summer to then come back during those 3 weeks and continue laying the foundation for the fall. And then in fall, we play matches on Thursdays and Sundays. We lift on Tuesdays as a collective team and then manage our low minute players coming off the bench, maybe players whose names haven't been called yet. They're kind of like on the reserves. They might get a few extra lifts in the week or conditioning sessions. Then our high minute kids, just keeping them healthy and available throughout the duration of the season. I hope that maybe answers a question, but that you asked.
No, that answers it perfectly.
Curious about the catapult stuff, and I know you were saying how you guys get the data and then you send it back. Like, do you guys make decisions off that on athletes playing or not participating in the next practice? Is like what decisions do you guys make off of the catapult data that you receive?
Yeah, I always want to say it doesn't drive decision making, it educates decision making. And it's just a tool in our toolbox that we utilize to help periodize training and monitor our athletes' loads. So there's not really the catapult or our GPS devices, and that data that it collects is not a sole factor in deciding playing time or practice participation. It's just a tool that we utilize in combination with many other things, such as our wellness report or our 4-Stex jump metrics, or just looking at your athletes and understanding that like they look absolutely gassed and tired and fatigued, and understanding all the social dynamics and travel logistics that have gone on in the last few weeks. So it's just a tool for us. Some common things we look at is like total distance, so like our volume metric. We'll look at player load sometimes, distance per minute, but really looking more at like our high speed running, our sprint distance, and our acceleration efforts and duration.
So when you're getting into off-season and preseason, how are you testing and knowing or like feeling like your athletes are ready to go? Like what are you following and like tracking or testing to like tell yourself like, all right, this athlete's like good to go, like they're ready for the season and stuff?
Yeah, you always want that validation as a coach, right? And as an athlete that like, oh, I'm ready to go. Like I'm primed, I'm accelerating fast, I'm sprinting fast. I just passed this fitness test. And then I think more recently I had this realization, I knew this, but I always want to see the numbers, and I want to make sure like as a coach, I'm providing a training program and I'm being checked that our training program is progressing in a positive manner. My athletes are getting stronger, my athletes are getting faster, they're more conditioned, but then they pass our fitness test and then they step on the soccer field and can't withstand completing soccer actions for 90 minutes. So I think it's a twofold thing. Yes, our testing is important. So testing that we do is we'll do a 10-yard acceleration test with timing gates, pretty straightforward, simple. We'll also do something to test like top end speed or max velocity. So I utilize a 20-yard build, 10-yard fly, again, have our timing gates out. We also can monitor both of those metrics, like miles per hour and meters per second when it comes to, or meters per second when it comes to acceleration and speed on catapult in like real time during practice or games or in our training sessions. And then for conditioning wise, we utilize the yo-yo intermittent recovery test level 1. We test that usually beginning of preseason time, and then also in the spring sometime after we've gone through a few weeks of training. And again, that's just kind of where are athletes at, where were they last year, where are they at going into preseason, just a general basis. And then in the weight room wise, I truly don't believe in like any 1 rep max testing. Our athletes know that if you feel good on a given day, and we're kind of like in a maximal strength block, or we have sets of 3 or sets of 2, and you want to rip a 1 rep max, let's go for it. And because one athlete may feel good in one day and the other athlete feels like crap on that day. So I kind of give them the freedom and autonomy at certain points in the year to have the opportunity to kind of max out, so you say, on certain movements that we complete in the weight room. But outside of that, and then our last testing is we utilize the force plates through vault. We do right now simple, just counter, hands on hips, counter movement, jump. There's some other testing that I want to dive into, but I try to keep it simple. I think everyone wants to go crazy with testing and test all these things, but what is that testing telling us? And are we truly tracking it over an extended period of time? Is it influencing decisions that we're making when it comes to the structure of our training programs? And ultimately, is it truly helping our athletes be better at their sport?
I mean, that's because every coach wants the validation. You know what I mean? That's why they're testing and all that stuff. But
I think it was a perfect example, kind of go back to what I was saying this spring, like our athletes, and part of my job is preparing them to run this fitness test, you know, and there's this culture and this anxiety on the women's college soccer around the beep test or the yo-yo. And everyone gets like this arousal around this test and having to pass this test. And I'm thankful to work under a soccer coaching staff that doesn't put so much pressure on it. It's more so like, hey, this is just a measure of where you're at. It's not, oh, you're not going to get to wear your jersey if you don't pass this test. You don't have a roster spot, because that's the reality for some people. But we saw it this spring. Girls absolutely killed it on this yo-yo test. And then we had a match a week later and people looked tired and fatigued. And it's because we weren't conditioned to play our sport. We were conditioned to run a fitness test, but we hadn't played enough soccer and intensity that we needed to be playing it at.
When you were speaking to like the actions in soccer, what does your preparation look like for like progressing them from off season to in season with those with regards to like soccer actions, I guess that change of direction or agility aspect?
Yeah, I think looking at our spring semester is probably the most pivotal, where I have the most influence when it comes to true performance training in the weight room and on the field. That's when I have the most time with our athletes. So we really start, and I'm big on keeping it simple. I always tell our girls, and they'll repeat it a million times after me, like, just do simple savagely well. So kind of like the structure typically of a week for me is like Mondays are acceleration day. And then there's probably like an upper body lift in there somewhere in the week. And then later in the week is like our max velocity day. But we just start really simple. We do a lot of like, I implement some like speed drills, whether that be like our A march or A skip, and that is more so just like teaching our athletes where to place their limbs. And then we can get more into like our little fancy 2-step projection with a med ball to work on acceleration and like broad jumps and things of that nature. But really just like keeping it simple at first and then progressing into like more advanced things. And I always try to remember that our athletes are coming in, their training age is super young. A lot of them haven't had exposure in a weight room and haven't been taught how to run efficiently before. So I have to like take a step back and make things really like simple for them.
And I know like common injuries in women's soccer is going to be ACL and ankles, right? What are you doing to prevent and concussions? Can't really prevent concussions.
Oh.
That just, yeah. But like, so for the ACL and ankles, what are you doing? Like, what preventative stuff are you doing for that? And then also when it happens, what are you doing for like your return to play for those athletes?
Yeah, and I personally don't like the word prevent because I'm like, can you really prevent those things from happening? Like the reality is I can do as much as I want on my end and they're still going to happen. So I kind of always say like, this is what we do to like minimize the chance of ACL injuries happening and minimize the severity of them when they do happen. Because if I can set an athlete up with a really firm foundation and they still tear their ACL or sprain their ankle. But if they have a firm foundation, their return to play to the field is going to probably go a lot smoother and a lot quicker. So it looks different for every single athlete. I think at Baylor, I'm super thankful to work as part of a health and wellness staff that values collaboration. So there's a lot of hands in the pot when it comes to an ACL return to play. There's myself, our athletic trainer, our PT, and ultimately the doctor that performs the surgery. But right before surgery, our athletes spend a lot of time in our athletic training room with our athletic trainer, working on getting swelling down, gaining range of motion. Once they have surgery, they spend like the first week in bed doing really nothing. Then they're in the athletic training room and with our PT, again, working through range of motion, have a lot of like on table exercises, but then we have this mindset here between our PT, athletic trainer, and myself that like we want to get them in the weight room as soon as possible and get them back in the training environment as soon as possible because there's definitely like a mental and psychological component of being injured. We want them to feel back to their normal and back towards like working towards a goal in athletic development. So what people would think is rehab, we just consider training. Like rehab is training. So even if it's exercises that you typically would see in a training room, like heel slides on the wall or like mini band glute bridge, like our athletes are going to be doing those in the weight room. That's going to be a part of their training program. And then as it progresses, usually around like that, as they progress, then they're doing like upper body and core exercises or pillar strength exercises with me. And then we get into more like unilateral strength training when we can start using that surgical side. And then from there, just progressing them back into like full go. But there comes a point where like each person kind of has ownership over a specific you're okay, a specific component of the return to play process. That's one of our coaches. But yeah, usually it's like a 6-month process. We have an athlete right now. She's at about like month 5. So now she can start doing some change of direction. But it becomes challenging because that athlete's off campus and we're not seeing that athlete. So I think a big part of my job is educating our athletes on like quality training, the positions they need to put their bodies in, and then also seeking out resources outside of here to set themselves up for success and being able to navigate like who's a good resource and maybe who's not a good resource.
So then alongside that, what are some deficiencies that you're seeing your athletes like as freshmen come in as? Freshman soccer players come in and they, like you said, they may never been in the weight room or been used to this type of training. Like what are some common deficiencies you're seeing in these athletes and then also like what are you doing to help improve those?
Yeah, so there's just a lack of training age and lack of experience in the weight room, not just for all kids these days. I think back to like probably when we were kids or like when our parents were kids and like kids were outside playing sports. Like I went outside with my 2 younger brothers and we were playing baseball with the boys in the neighborhood and we play basketball and we do all these things, and kids don't do that anymore. They really specialize in one sport and then they're completing these sport actions repetitively over and over again. That don't ever have exposure to any other actions other than that. And they try to like really, so I think of like a pitcher in baseball, a youth pitcher, like, they're going to pitching lessons however many times a week. They're going to practice however many times a week, but no one ever teaches them proper squat technique or how to control their pelvis when they're hinging at their hips. So you just see a lot of lack of like body awareness and then just a lack of strength in general. So I always say there's like 5 key movement patterns for me, and really probably any strength coach would agree. Like squat, hinge, push, pull, and then stabilize through the pillar. And that's what the program that I give these athletes that come in for the first 3 weeks experience. And then we get into season and you have to figure out like, okay, maybe some of them are freshmen and going to play heavy minutes. And then others are still like on this foundational program throughout the entirety of the fall.
How's it been to train? So then working college athletes, right? So they're still kind of young and all that stuff, and then working with professionals.
Yeah.
Right?
They're young.
Yeah, they're real young, super young. All right, so you're working with all of them, which is kind of at when you get the freshmen that coming in a pretty basic level. Like you said, you're taking them through 3 weeks of like trying to learn what it's like, seeing if they have a lot of minutes. But then on top of that, now you're at an internship where you're with professional athletes. What is the difference between them two, and then what are you learning from the professional side now?
I'm learning so much. That's such a loaded question. I could probably talk about it all day because it just excites me. And there's so many things that I'm like hoping to be able to bring back into this space to like make this space better and uplift it and be better for our athletes. But I think the biggest thing that stood out to me, and this was like on day one, in regards to the athletes, is like they know what they need for their body. They know how to take care of themselves for the most part. I mean, you're always gonna have people that you like need to hold their hand and encourage them to do more when it comes to caring for their body. But before training, you'll see these guys in the weight room on the turf doing any of their what you would think of as prehab or activation exercises. They show up for treatment and are not late, and they are there on the table getting their massages, and they're getting in the cryo chamber, and they're drinking their recovery shakes. I mean, again, you're holding some people's hands doing these things, but a lot of them understand that this is their job. And to do their job, they must have a healthy body that's available to play their sport. So that's probably the biggest thing I see. I think especially in the older population of these athletes, they're not taking any day for granted.
Yeah, I think that's great advice right there. Just at the end, like you said, not taking it for granted. Like if you really want to get to that level, you've got to kind of continue to do what the greats are doing. That's like not missing any days, not showing up late, not having your coach have to hold your hand and get your recovery shake, and doing whatever. It's hard as a freshman. Yeah, we all know. I mean, we all look back at our freshman years and thinking, dude, that's our first sign of freedom. Like, I'm going to do what I want to do. But it's also awesome to have somebody like you there that's seeing both sides of things and being able to bring that back. But then at the end of the day, where's Malorie headed? Like, where's Malorie in this whole grand scheme of things? Where are you going with everything?
Yeah, so I think in the past, I would have told you there's a certain title, like job title or a certain institution, organization that's like, this is my dream job, this is where I want to be. But more recently, especially since I've been in Austin doing this internship, I just realized like I'm actually chasing an environment and I'm chasing a vision. And I think I have a pretty clear vision of like where I want to go, and I'm just being patient and actually like letting God lead me in that and open the door. And then when I recognize it's the right door, I'll step through it. But yeah, I'm chasing an environment that fosters like harmony and collaboration amongst the staff and like fosters growth. And with that harmony and collaboration, there doesn't mean there's not going to be tough moments and that people aren't going to call you out and going to challenge you to be better. That's where like growth happens. So yeah, I would love to be in a leadership role one day and continue to influence young athletes, whether that's in the college setting or the professional setting. Right now, I'm just kind of chasing some cool life experiences and an environment with people that push me to be better each day.
I love it. And I know you said one piece of advice you had earlier was to take all those interviews. What would be your next piece of advice for all coaches getting started in this industry, and even for the coaches over here in Europe that are trying to, break into that professional side like you are, or even trying to get an opportunity over there in college in the States? Yeah,
so I think kind of to go off what I said, networking is the biggest piece. Everything is who you know, but I think it's also important to be intentional in who you choose to network with. Your network could either set you up for success or could take you down a road of no success at all. You want to make sure that the people you're engaging with and you're doing business with are people who share common morals and values as yourself. That doesn't mean that their coaching philosophy is not going to be different. And it's important to surround yourself with people whose mindset is different when it comes to training and philosophy and are going to challenge you to think outside the box. But you want people who have a strong character and a character like yours and whose name like people get excited to talk about and are proud of and acknowledge as someone that they would go and work for and work alongside of. And then the other two big things for me are just adaptability and being collaborative. Like, can you navigate the dynamic and evolving landscape with ease and like embrace the hard moments? I haven't always gotten that right. And then being collaborative, like fostering a team-oriented environment that encourages growth and welcomes new ideas and vulnerability. So
Let's go. Hey, you speak like you're our age. You know, and you're young in the game, but I see you doing great, great work. But before we end this thing, we got our final 90-second round. All right, so it's 90 seconds,
Oh, no.
one-word answers. Yeah, I didn't prepare you for this part.
Yeah, I probably should have like listened all the way through one of y'all's podcasts so I knew this was coming. One word? Did you just listen to me talk? One word is really hard for me.
Yeah, I know. That's what
tired best for the one.
Okay.
Sometimes it's 2 words or 3 words, but most of the times it's 1 word. It's pretty simple questions. They can be all across the board. So are you ready?
Okay. I guess. I mean, I'm scared.
Here we go. All right. Favorite post-workout snack?
Protein powder? Like just a protein shake?
Best coach you've ever had?
That's a hard one. Like sport coach?
We'll go sport coach, yeah.
Probably my high school soccer coach. His name's Chris Micret.
All right. Favorite sport to train?
Soccer.
Pizza or burger?
Burger.
Do you prefer off-season or in-season training?
Off-season.
Top athlete you've ever trained?
I can't be putting my athletes on blast now. That's a harsh one.
It's okay.
All of them.
Your favorite exercise?
Probably to clean.
What is your number one flaw as a coach?
This is a hard question. These are the types of questions they ask you in an interview, and you're supposed to know the answer to, right? My number one flaw. I've been to plenty of interviews. I probably talk too much.
All right, last one. Would you rather be in an octagon with a gorilla?
Can I say none of those? Probably a tiger.
Did we? No, I can.
Can you hear?
I lost y'all for a second.
Okay, it's all right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Well, what'd you say?
It said I had unstable connection. I said, can I answer none of those? I said tiger, though.
Tiger. Okay. Tiger it is. And that is the end.
I want to know y'all's answer to that question.
Oh, I'm taking a gorilla.
I said gorilla. I think that'd probably be the most kindest animal.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
See, I need to study my animals.
You know, you got Baylor.
That's just my I don't go at me.
You're right. I picked the wrong answer. I might get fired for that one. I'm scared of bears, so.
Well, I never grew up around bears or a tiger or a gorilla, so I feel like a gorilla would probably be my choice.
You know, people, I guess in Europe might not know this. I mean, like some schools here, like they have their like a live version of their mascot, so we have a live bear on our campus.
Oh, no, dog. I didn't know that about
a live bear on campus.
Yeah, a live bear habitat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. In Waco, Texas, we have a live bear. Yeah, y'all might have to take a trip just to see the bear.
Now I gotta go back to Waco. But Natalie, we appreciate you jumping on with us today. Athletes, if you got the chance to check out what she's doing over there, go ahead and check out. She's doing some awesome work. And as she said, do the simple things savagely well. That's something that I think all athletes should take with us, and even coaches. Just make it really simple for athletes. So thank you, Mallory, for being here with us today, and we look forward to seeing all your work going forward.
Yeah, thank y'all.